All right, part 4 of the Revolutionary War. We're going to pick up where we left off with George trying to inspire these troops while they were within their winter quarters. So basically, while they're at Valley Forge, Thomas Paine, he writes the second pamphlet and he sends it. And basically, he wants to inspire the troops to keep fighting. And he wants to inspire George to keep pushing them to want to fight. So this second pamphlet is called The Crisis. And it asks people not to be a summer soldier and sunshine patriot. So what does that really mean? A summer soldier and sunshine patriot, excuse me. So he's basically saying, hey, you can't just fight when it's warm outside or when things are going good and when you're smiling. Sometimes you got to fight through it, even when you don't feel like it and it's cold outside and it doesn't look good. You still have to fight for this cause. You got to fight for this patriot cause to be independent from England. Excuse me. So Washington planned a risky and daring surprise attack. On Christmas Day, the Continental Army crossed the Delaware River and attacked a large British force at Trenton, New Jersey. There were Hessians there who had been asleep after late night partying. They were celebrating Christmas just as anybody else. If you notice throughout history, a lot of surprise attacks occurred during holidays that we celebrate today. And I think because, a lot of people like to celebrate. And back then, they were just indulging in rum and corn whiskey and just having a good old time. And so, while they got a little drink in their cup, they just kind of feeling themselves and not paying attention to, hey, we're in the midst of a war here. And Washington and his army caught these Hessian soldiers off guard and they attacked them. And so with winning this particular attack, they feel pretty good. So this is a depiction just showing George crossing back over the Delaware River to surprise these Hessian soldiers in New Jersey. And this is a depiction of the Hessians celebrating Christmas in the trenches. Even though this wasn't the actual during the Revolutionary War, I still wanted you to see this picture of what that kind of looked like, them celebrating trenches, celebrating Christmas in the trenches. A week later, Washington and Continental Army won another surprise victory at Princeton, New Jersey. The Continental soldiers felt, better. They felt pretty good. A lot of them began to re-enlist. Several new volunteers enlisted. And the British are now becoming frustrated. They're basically saying, hey, we need a better plan because Washington, he's on his feet. He has his Continental Army together, and they're not stopping. They're not scared anymore. So the turning point was Saratoga. When the British realized that they could not just crush George Washington and his army, they changed their tactics. They decided to take control of the Hudson River Valley, ambush the colonies, and force them to surrender. But that plan failed. On October 17, 1777, the Americans completely surrounded the Redcoats at Saratoga, and the huge British army surrendered. The hero of Saratoga was really Benedict Arnold, but because people were so in love with George Washington and his leadership, of course, they gave him the credit. And we know how that's going to end later on because Benedict Arnold is not going to like that. So I coined that, from hero to zero real quick. Basically, they know that Benedict Arnold is a really good strategist, but they still gave George Washington credit for this defeat at Saratoga. Again, Saratoga is considered the turning point of the war because it proved to the rest of the world that the colonists were very serious about breaking away from the mother country and they wanted to really be independent. So, of course, you're going to see France and Spain say, hey, this is looking pretty good. Maybe we need to invest in this war because, again, France and Spain don't want to see England be powerful. So they are happy that these new people, these colonists who want to create this new country called America, they're happy that they want to break away from England because that's just less power that England has all over the world. So they don't mind helping. So here's General Burgoyne at Saratoga surrendering. So Ben Franklin, he had actually been over in Europe for months, and he was basically just the diplomatic person who was just trying to get French aid. And France had been selling the Americans guns towards, a little bit after the beginning battles of the war, but they weren't really willing to actually step up and help the Americans fight until after the Battle of Saratoga. So again, it convinced the French, hey, yeah, we need to step up and get involved in this war because we're okay with helping the Americans as long as England doesn't become powerful. So in addition to France, the U.S. got help from other places. You begin to see Marquis de Lafayette, who came in and led the French troops. He came in and also trained some of these volunteers, these American volunteers, trained them to be more poised in their fighting and accurate in their shooting. In 1799, England's other old enemy, Spain, also entered the war as America's allies. So again, you see France and Spain step up because they don't want the mother country to become powerful. So they don't mind helping the Americans after they see the Americans truly helping themselves. So of course, the French come over not only with soldiers, but also with their navy. Just remember, the Americans don't have a true navy. They may have borrowed some ships from, a few merchants, but they don't have, a true naval fleet that they can truly send out to fight naval battles. And then the Spanish also brought their army and their naval fleet as well. OMG. Neither country really wanted to help America. They just really hated England and wanted England to lose all of its empire in America. So again, France and Spain did not mind helping out the Americans. And these new allies changed people's opinions about the war. People who were normally neutral, or people who remained loyal that stayed in the colonies, they said, man, this is looking pretty good for the Americans. Maybe we do need to really fight for the patriot cause because we see that Spain and France are taking this serious. And if we're going to stay here in America, we need to take this serious too. English citizens began saying that they should just let the colonies go and leave them alone. So people back in England, over in Europe, are saying, hey, if the British soldiers are losing these battles now and they're basically wasting ammo, wasting supplies, losing lives, just come on back home and let those people have their land. Let them be. Just leave them alone. And so now you begin to see people in Europe actually being scared because they see that the Americans are truly fighting for their cause. They have some experienced military generals coming from Europe to help them, by way of France and Spain. And a lot of the British, not the soldiers, but the families that were in Europe were actually, scared. They were becoming scared that these Americans were truly going to win, and it was no reason to keep fighting this war. Just let them come on home to save, to keep England from losing more lives. So in the 18th century, the armies did not fight much in the winter months. Again, instead, they went into winter quarters. The British went to Philadelphia, and General Howe, he had lavish parties for his British soldiers there. And again, we see George Washington. He's camped out in Valley Forge. They spent a terrible winter, freezing and starving, not realizing that because of the win of Saratoga, the momentum of the war had turned in their favor. They knew that they had been winning all these battles, but they were basically feeling like, it's cold out here. We're tired again. Our winter situation is crazy. And the soldiers pretty much, they lacked decent food, clothes, and shelter, along with weapons and ammo. So again, Washington has a great challenge. He's trying to keep his army together. He doesn't want them arguing and fighting and worrying and hungry and tired. And several of the men begin to fight and even try to kill each other. They have a lot of time on their hands. They're cold. They're missing their families. They're missing their wives. So you can imagine, what this does to a man's mental state. So again, they're trying to endure. Washington received help from Frederick von Steuben. He's a former Prussian general who was exiled for various reasons. I'll let you look that up. But anyway, so he was kicked out of Prussia, um, the old German country, and can't think of the other country that was part of that Prussia was comprised of, part of what Russia, Germany. But anyway, he used his own money and bought the American soldiers' uniforms and trained them. So he wanted to come over here, kind of redeem himself, claim his name, clear his name again, become a great general that he was. And so he came to America. He helped George Washington train his army and push them to just do better and keep fighting. In September 1780, the U.S. got some terrible news that General Benedict Arnold, the